Hi, this is Phil Shapiro in Tacoma Park. I heard on the news some sad story here in the summer of 2016 that there was a severe heat wave in Chicago and several people died in the heat wave. So I got to thinking, Chicago's really hot in the summer, but it's also really, really cold in the winter. Is there perhaps some way of saving winter ice from the coldest days of winter in Chicago and helping them reduce the severity of the heat waves in the summer? So here's some ideas. I just wanted to share them. This kind of idea is not totally new. Here's some research I did in this periodical called Japan Today in 2013. There's a convenience store that's saving winter snow for summer air conditioning. And it's in the Akita Prefecture. And it says here in the article, the company has recently made a move to be more environmentally friendly, saving winter snow for summer air conditioning. In the illustration at the left, you can clearly see the massive snow saver in the back and the solar panels on the roof. Lawson expects the new branch to use half as much electricity. Well, that's kind of interesting. Now, in terms of, there's other examples where of unconventional kind of cooling. So the city of Toronto uses Lake Ontario, water from the lake, to help air condition the city. The water in Lake Ontario is kind of cold, even in the hottest day of summer, especially if you go down about 20 feet. It's cold water, and they pump it up. Same thing with Cornell University, uses Lake Cayuga. It's a deep lake, one of the 5 Finger Lakes, and they cool it costs a lot less money to pump the water up the hill from the lake to Cornell than it is to use an air conditioning system. And they did a study. The environmental impact is quite minor on the lake. All of the summer's air conditioning for Cornell amounts to the equivalent of 1 hour of sunlight striking the lake in terms of heating it up. So Chicago has an infinite amount of cold in the winter. I've heard about it. It gets cold in Chicago. I went to look for some data on this. So here from the website weatherspark.com, I found out the average January temperatures. So the daily low temperatures are around 19 degrees Fahrenheit, and they fall below zero 1 day out of 10 in January. So you can make a lot of ice. When the temperature is below 0 degrees Fahrenheit, you can make a lot of ice because there's literally kind of infinite coldness. Sometimes Chicago gets real chilly. Back in January 20th, 1985, the low temperature was minus 27. So you can make even more ice when it's minus 27. And the idea is kind of you have to visualize a very large ice cube tray, like 2 miles on one side by 1 mile on another side by half a mile tall. Or I kind of visualize it almost as an ice ship or an ice tower. The year-round average wind speed in Chicago is about 10 miles an hour. I read that on different websites. So that if you can harness this wind energy, you can use that for making ice. You typically harness the wind energy year-round to pump water up a hill, kind of up some, and then when you want to make ice, you pump the water out of the lake and into containers. These kind of ice cube trays that are supersized ice cube trays, or whatever. I wanted to find out how much water is in Lake Michigan. I went to Wolfram Alpha, and I searched Lake Michigan volume in gallons. This is what I found. It's 1.29 times 10 to the 15 gallons. Now that's a little hard to visualize, but if you look down a little bit further, it's the same thing as 4,870 cubic kilometers of water. That's a lot of water. 5,000 cubic kilometers of water. That's a lot. And I'm beginning to think, like, what would a tower full of ice look like? So I did a quick sketch, and I wanted to, like, show you what I'm visualizing in my head. The iceful tower. Ice could be created using renewable energy, such as wind. I mentioned that already. You could also use fossil fuels. I mean, the whole concept is that the use of the fossil fuels, you could end up with a lot more cold if it's wisely used, the fossil fuels, than using the same fossil fuels to create air conditioning in the summer months. And let's see what's next. The idea here is not to air condition the entire city of Chicago down to 70 degrees, but to make less severe the searing heat of Chicago's hottest summer days. So when it's 105 in Chicago on a blistering hot day, wouldn't it be nice to have like some breezes from an ice ship or whatever that would just bring it down to 90 degrees so that it is not as dangerous to the human body. Doing so would make the city more attractive to visitors, convention goers too. So there's an economic incentive for embarking on these kinds of projects. So even if the project costs a lot of money, it might be recouped with increased commerce. My name is Phil Shapiro. You can reach me on Twitter at Phil Shapiro or send me an email at pshapiro@his.com. In case you're wondering, I make this screencast on my Linux laptop. I have a Lenovo ThinkPad T400. I'm using software that's free called Simple Screen Recorder. I made this little presentation with LibreOffice and exported it to a PDF. A PDF is playing on my attached 23-inch monitor, 1920 by 1080. And I'm recording this separately to my digital audio recorder. I have an Olympus digital audio recorder. And my webcam is a Logitech. I love Logitech webcams. And I'm using this free software called Komoso, which is a webcam software. So I'm hoping that these ideas might be interesting. I don't know if this is practical, but I felt I just needed to share it. And I hope it might spark some conversations. Conversations can sometimes move us forward. Isn't that the truth? This is Phil Shapiro, over and out.